Hello and welcome to Lorindalandia. Today I'd like to talk about people pleasing and its roots because I think we focus people pleasing as being low self esteem. Low self esteem is a consequence of the traumatic experience that you are living. People pleasing is actually a trauma response for you to deal with a traumatic environment or person. People pleasing is usually related with a fawn trauma response. This is where you try to please this person or this environment. You try to make it as most comfortable and conflict avoidant as possible as a way to protect yourself, as a way to keep safe. If, for example, in childhood and even in adulthood, if you experience a long period of time with someone that is extremely volatile, usually this is very related with narcissism. If you experience a long period of time with someone that was extremely volatile, that every little thing that you did would trigger them, that you needed to walk on eggshells for you to feel safe and avoid some sort of anger and conflict, you use the fawn response, the people pleasing response, as a way to keep you safe. Usually, in narcissist relationships, they also lower your sense of self esteem as a way of devaluation and as a way to minimize you. And this is a consequence of experiencing a long period with a narcissist or with an abusive person or environment. Low self esteem is also a consequence of experience that form of devaluation for a long period of time, but is not quite the root of people pleasing. I think we associate people pleasing with having a low self esteem, and those two go together usually, but they are not the root cause. Low self esteem is not the root cause of people pleasing. The root cause of people pleasing is dealing with a volatile person that every little thing that you do can trigger them. Every little thing that you do might send them into a rage state. Everything that you do might cause conflict to you, and you people please in the sense that you anticipate their needs, you put their needs on top of yours, you prioritize their needs instead of yours as a way to survive, as a way to keep safe. You walk on eggshells for you to avoid the maximum on safety that you possibly can in these experiences. I think there is also a lot of victim blame and shame with people pleasing, like you people please and people on the outside of you say like you need to stand up for yourself, you need to be more conflictuous, like you need to stand up for yourself and speak louder and get this more aggressive attitude. However, I think in a lot of times when we are in environments with narcissism or we are being pushed to have this coping mechanism, we cannot stand up for ourselves because we are already unsafe. Imagine if we stand up for ourselves. That brings even a higher sense of unsafety. So I think there is a lot of victim blame in people pleasing. Like there is something wrong with you for people pleasing, and we are not looking at what causes people pleasing, what is causing you for you to walk on eggshells, right? And I think victim blame is a complex concept. I think there are many reasons why we victim blame, not only the reasons of manipulation of the abuser, gaslighter of the abuser that tells stories and creates narratives to avoid blame, but also I think it's easier in a lot of people's minds to have control over bad experiences, in the sense that we might victim blame as a society because they give us a higher sense of control. It is easier to live in a reality where you are the where you are the causation for your bad experiences. And it's harder to live in a reality where you don't have control over your difficult experiences. That's usually the case. I think it's easier to blame the victim because that is saying that we have some sort of control in difficult experiences, that we can avoid difficult experiences if we wanted to, that we can take some sort of action to avoid severe trauma and severe difficult experiences, when in reality, we don't. Some people experience it more than others, but we don't have that much control in being faced with trauma. Sometimes it just happens. We are faced with the quote unquote wrong people. We are not in the right place at the right time. Sometimes we are just unlucky with facing some sort of person or some sort of experience, and we don't have that much control over that experience. Of course, we have control in the way that we support ourselves during that experience and after that experience, but sometimes bad things happen, most of the times actually, and it is not our fault. It is not because of something that we did. Life, it's simply hard sometimes. But I think having the privilege of victim blame is a fear-based mindset, in the sense that people that have not experienced a severe trauma, of course, everyone's experienced a certain amount of trauma, right? But people that have the privilege to victim blame, that is quite like that, is a privilege. They don't understand, and they are fearful because of that, that sometimes you are just at the wrong place at the wrong times. Sometimes by unluckiness, you find the wrong person, you find a manipulative person, you find an abuser, and there is nothing much you can do about it. You don't have much control over the trauma that you are enduring. And I think that can be a frightened mindset to have. This can be a very scared mindset to live in, to know that you don't have control over the outside world. You only have control over your actions. And this is sometimes you don't have even 100% of control over your actions, because sometimes we are unaware. We don't know yet. Sometimes you're acting from emotion, and our actions are being led through unconscious belief systems. I think it can be hard to live in the world where you understand that you don't have control over the outside of you. And that mindset can be difficult and scary to know and to understand. And that's, I think, a big factor of victim blame, because he's basically saying that bad things will not happen to me because I have control over them. Because if someone came out to me, I'll know better. Because if something happened to me, I'll know better. When in reality, we don't. Some of us have worse than others. Some of us has better than others, but it has nothing to do with our actions. We have no control over it. It's not about quote unquote bad karma. Simply, sometimes life is hard. Because life is not about fairness. Not everything is a cause and event. Life is about evolution. Life is about growing. And growing takes a certain level of comfortability and uncomfortability. Growing and evolving takes a certain level of pain and difficult experiences. And I think that's one of the big reasons why society likes to victim blame, because it's basically giving them a sense of control, is basically saying that will not happen to me because I know better. I'll know better if that happened to me, which is a fallacy. We don't have control over the outside world. We only have control in supporting us through those experiences and supporting us after those difficult experiences. So I think people pleasing has a lot of shame in it, as any, honestly, way to cope with trauma, because again it's all the victim blaming around it, right? And I think people pleasing, sometimes when someone people please and has these tendencies, they are shameful about it, and there's almost this rhetoric like there is something wrong with you because you should be more, you should have an higher self-esteem, because you should stand up for yourself, because you should speak louder, when in reality you are dealing with a trauma response. You are surviving. You are doing the best that you can to survive. And you are put into a difficult situation that you had no control over it. And sometimes life just happens that way. Sometimes life is not fair and we don't have control over everything. And you did the best to survive. People pleasing is an act of bravery because you did not become the aggressor. You did not become like the person that was hurting you. You did the opposite. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of strength to not become the person that hurt you, to not become like the person that hurt you. People pleasing is an act of courage. And all that you were doing was surviving, and you did very well, because you could easily become like the person that hurt you. You could easily adapt that behavior as normal. You can easily see it. Yes, this is the way that people behave and the way that I should behave, but you didn't. You chose kindness. And of course, you chose kindness to your detriment because you were in a difficult situation trying to survive. But you chose a route of a lot of bravery and a lot of courage, because it is hard to remain kind in a harsh environment. It is hard to remain kind in pain. And you chose a route that takes a lot of bravery and a lot of courage, and there is nothing that should be shameful about it. What should be shameful is the actions of the abuser, is the actions of the aggressor. But again, we as a society don't quite see it that way. But that's what we should look at, is the reasons why we are people pleasing, is the person on the environment that is making us people please. But there is no shame in being quote unquote a victim. There is no shame in surviving. There is no shame in doing the best that you knew with the best that you had. So I think people pleasing has a lot of shame around it, and I understand why, because of the victim blaming. But it's really an act of bravery, and it's really an act of kindness, and it's just a way to survive, right? And people pleasing, there is no direct correlation with low self-esteem. It was really just an act for you to survive. It was just an act to keep you safe to the best of your capabilities. It was an act for you to remain with the least amount of trauma possible, right? Low self-esteem is just another consequence of abuse. Low self-esteem is just another consequence of dealing with a narcissist for a long period of time. It is not the causation of people pleasing. People pleasing is a way to survive, is a way to keep you safe, is a way to quote unquote walk on eggshells around a volatile person for you to survive with a maximum mental sanity that you can, and for you to escape with the maximum mental sanity that you can. That again is not a lot. So for you to heal people pleasing, it is really important here to see the environment where you people please. See the people, the environments where you get that need to people please, because that need to people please is telling you the environments where you don't feel safe. People pleasing equals unsafety. So see the people and the environments where you feel like you need to people please, because those are the toxic environments. Those are the environments that we feel unsafe. And for example, if you grew up as a child with volatile parents or narcissistic parents, or around volatile narcissistic people, you might have integrated this as your normal because that's all you know. That's all you know. And integration of this as normality is also a form to cope, is also a form to survive, is also a form to endure and survive this type of traumatic experiences. So in adulthood now, you might be attracted to similar environments because that's your normal. But again, nothing is not your fault. It is not something that you're doing consciously. It's just something to be aware of, right? So first, we identify the people and the environments that we people please. People please equals unsafety. So if we identify the people and the environments that we tend to people please, we basically know these are unsafe environments for us. And the first step here is separation. Again, sometimes separation can be hard because sometimes you cannot separate, right? Sometimes it is your parents, sometimes it is your family, sometimes it is people that is hard for you to separate from. But just the awareness that these people are unhealthy, just the awareness that this is unsafe, it is already a lot. Because with that awareness, you can start dealing with the environment that way. For example, if you have a person that you cannot separate from and it is an unsafe person, right? And maybe you do want to separate, but you cannot physically, right? When you go meet this person, just know that their actions are unhealthy, their words are unhealthy, and kind of block their actions and their words from your inner world. Kind of go prepared in knowing, okay, this is unsafe for me, and I know this. Of course, like avoiding that person the maximum that you can will be the best way, but sometimes we cannot fully avoid, sometimes we cannot fully separate, because ultimately separation will be the healthiest for you. Because again, if you continue to be in unsafe environments, you'll not be able to heal your people pleasing tendencies, because it's a coping mechanism, is you surviving. You need to get out of the environment where you feel unsafe to start healing from this survival trauma response. But if you have to be with this person, if it's something that you cannot separate, every time that you meet this person, every time that you are with this person, go with the mindset, this is not healthy. I will not intake their actions. I will not intake their words. They have nothing to do with me. I'm not a problem here at all. This is simply a person that is unhealthy to me. And also, I think in the narcissistic field, if I'm not mistaken, there is this quote that is Gray rocking this concept. That is basically when you are with an abuser, with a narcissist, you give them as little interaction as possible. You give them as little information about your life. You give them as like little words as possible, little conversation. If you have to be with them, you interact the minimum that you can with them, because this is also a way of separating yourself from that person, even if you have to be there physically. This is a way to kind of put guards up, boundaries up, so you can create some sort of separation. Physical separation isn't the healthiest, but sometimes you cannot physically separate, so we have to go through mental separation. So the first step is spot the unsafe environment by seeing when you have the tendency to people please, So you see the people and the environments where you tend to people please, and you know that this means that this is an unsafe person or environment. Step two, separation. Physically will be the best. If you cannot, mentally, by disengaging with them, by not taking any of their actions or any of their words as truth to you, by separating mentally and creating a block there mentally. And then what you do is you need to start creating a sense of safety. You create this sense of safety by connecting with your body. What safety looks like is an environment where you can be fully yourself, where you feel safe to be fully yourself. Safety basically is truthful expression. So for you to create safety, you can or look for a place or environment where you feel safe. For example, for me is nature, where I feel safe, and my safe place is like a place in nature, in a forest where nobody's around. That's where I feel the most myself, and that's where I feel the most truthful to myself and the most safe to fully express myself as I am. You find a safe place, a safe environment where you can be truly yourself. This can be mean very different things for very different people. This can also be a safe object. I know a lot of people got like safety blankets, a safe object, wherever it brings you a sense of comfortable and a sense of unconditional acceptance, a place where you can be fully yourself without restrictions. You find that place, that environment. Can also be an activity, can it be dancing, expressing yourself, being creative, whatever is your means to be fully yourself. And you slowly start to tap into that safety, in the sense, an environment or a way to express yourself fully without restrictions. And you slowly tap into your body. What is tapping into your body? Tapping into your body is feeling the sensations of your body, is quieting the mind, not shutting down the mind completely, because that's quite difficult and that's not the purpose, but slowly tapping into the sensations in your body. Where do you feel weight in your body? Where do you feel lightness? How does your body feel? So you slowly start creating safety, you slowly start tapping into your body. And what happens next here is that your body will start a process of quote unquote healing. It will start purging, basically. So, probably a lot of strong emotions will come out, because while you are people pleasing, you are in survival. So, you're not processing the experience, you're not processing the trauma, you're just surviving. So, when you start to feel safe and when you start tapping into your body, everything that you are not able to process will come at once. Everything will start, you start processing, you start feeling. And this, if you've been in survival for a long time, basically if you've been people pleasing for a long time, this at the beginning is a bit hard, because basically the more you feel safe, the more your body regulates. So before, in survival, you were living in high adrenaline, high cortisol. So this means that you had a lot of energy, that your body was like do 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 do, because you were living in survival, right? And when you start to feel safe, the first stage is a complete burnout. This stage, you probably gonna lose a lot of energy. You probably are not going to have the energy to do much. You're probably just going to be faced with a lot of hard thoughts and heavy emotions with low energy. And this is kind of the hangover of living in survival for a long period of time. This is your body feeling safe for the first time. And if your body feels safe for the first time in a long time, it's going to be exhausted because your body was living in survival, right? So the first time it got to rest, it's going to rest for a long period of time, because it has been surviving for a long time. It's like you being awake for days on end, and the first sleep that you have, you're going to sleep for 12 hours, right? Your body is going to need a lot of time to rest and to recover because you have been living in survival and in high levels of adrenaline and cortisol for a long period of time. So the first time that your body feels safe after this is going to be hard. This is the hardest part. It's the beginning of safety. The hardest part of this journey is when you are burnout, is where you cannot do much, because this is where you're going to be forced to rest. This is where you're going to be forced to feel your emotions, to feel the heavy emotions that that survival mode brings you, feel the heavy emotions of experience that trauma. This is where you're going to finally start to process everything that you've been through. The hardest part is at the beginning. During this process, you slowly start to get better, but it's really slowly. It takes a longer time. It takes a lot of compassion. It takes a lot of patience. This is a time where you cannot expect to do the things that you did before. This is a time where you cannot expect from yourself the same energy or the same productivity that you had before. Because again, before you probably could do way more because you were living in high levels of adrenaline and cortisol. In this process, when you start to slowly feel safe, it is actually a very good indication, this burnout. It means that you are starting to entering the safe zone, even though we might not feel like it, because again, is that concept that we see our worth in productivity, and when we are not productive, this can be extremely uncomfortable because we see so much of our worth in productivity, and we need productivities to survive, right? We need to go to work, we need to generate money, we need to do all of those things. But this is a time where it is a good sign because you're starting to entering the healing journey, you're starting to entering the safety zone. But it is the most difficult at beginning because you probably have no energy. You probably be in bed all day crying, screaming, wherever it is your process of processing these difficult experiences, and you're going to be exhausted. It slowly gets better with time, but there is a lot of self compassion and a lot of acceptance and self love that you need to have during the beginning stages. A lot of patience, a lot of compassion, a lot of not trying to push yourself to do something that you don't have the energy for, a lot of supporting yourself during that time, a lot of not doing and being okay with not producing. And you slowly start to get better, right? When you slowly start to get better, a really good thing is create a boundary list. And what are boundaries? Boundaries is kind of guidelines of what makes you feel safe and what makes you feel unsafe. Boundaries is not just about the don't do's, like don't do this, don't do that, don't do this and that. It's also about what another person needs to do to make you feel safe. So when you start feeling better, because at the beginning you also your mind is very confused because it's very overwhelmed. Again, is everything is eating you at once. So at the beginning of this healing journey of recovering from people pleasing, your mind is super confused. And I don't advise create these boundaries when your mind is super confused. Give yourself time, give yourself patience. And when your mind is more clear, when you start feeling a little bit better, and when you have a more clear mind, write down the things that make you feel safe, the actions, the characteristics of a person that makes you feel safe, and the characteristics or action of a person that does not make you feel safe. Write this down and write this and put this on a visible place. And what are these boundaries? These boundaries is basically guidelines for you to move through the world. So imagine after this, you meet someone new or you go to a newer environment. What I advise is go through these boundaries list that you set prior. go through these characteristics, go through these actions that you consider safe and unsafe, and see if this new person or new environment meets your standards of safety. If they don't, this is your sign to disengage. This is your sign to let's go. Nothing personal to the people. This is just your way to keep yourself safe. Those people or that environment, nothing wrong with them. They are just not meant for you. This is a way of discernment. So go through this task list. Go through this list of characteristics and this list of actions. See if this new person or new environment meets these standards. If they don't, disengage. And if they do, engage. Because ultimately, not every environment will be for you. You are not meant for everyone. You don't need to be everyone's favorite person. You don't need to be everyone's friend. You just need to find the people and the environment that you feel safe with because you deserve to feel safe. And safety, once more, is about you being completely yourself and you being okay with being completely yourself. And this is not just about the inner work that you do. This is also about the environment that you are at. Because if you are in an environment where you cannot be fully yourself, you're not truly safe. And for you to recover from these people pleasing tendencies, basically, is just for you to move from an unsafe environment to a safe environment. Because again, you are not people pleasing necessarily because you have low self esteem. You are people pleasing because you are unsafe. So, really, recovering from people pleasing is about finding your inner safety, discovering what that looks like for you, what that feels like, what are the actions that bring you safety, what are the characteristics that bring you safety. So then you can move through the world knowing, okay, this is an unsafe environment for me, I'll walk away. This is a safe environment for me, I'll stay. People pleasing is all about discovering what is unsafe and what is safe to you. And for you to recover from people pleasing is not about you gaining this higher sense of self esteem, it's about you finding what is safe and unsafe for you. People pleasing is not quite a direct action from you. It is in the sense, for example, if you grow up in this environment and you find this environment normal, you unconsciously feel attracted to these situations. But it's not something, people pleasing is not a characteristic of yourself, it's not a personality trait. It is a consequence of an unsafe environment. So, recovering from people pleasing is finding that safety within you, in the sense finding that authentic self-expression within you and seeing where your authentic self-expression, where your authenticity is accepted. That is safety. Let me know down in the comments if you resonated with this. If you like this video, give it a like, and if you like this content, subscribe. Bye.